All right. Well, I'm so happy to have Mike McAra back on. Is this the second time you're back on the
Number
podcast?
two,
Two. I love it. I love returning guests. I feel like, when I'm thinking about anything tech, you're the first person that comes to mind. So, episode today is, drum roll please, is AI, and it's becoming more and more part of the conversation in every industry. And before we started talking, the question is like, is there a boom, is there a bust coming, is real estate, you know um automatable, is that, even if that's an English word, but I it's coming up more and more. And the question is to lean in, or to say, is it a passing fad in our industry specifically? So we'll get into all of that with Mike McAra from Reach Canada, which I'm so excited to be part of yet again this year. I'm talking to one of the three finalists actually tomorrow. So I'm excited to hear about that. But welcome.
thanks. Thanks for having me back. It's a little bit different virtual than in person. I must say, I prefer the in person, but the beauty of technology is we can do this virtually. So thanks for having me on virtually today.
Because I think the first time it took us about 6 months to find a time that you were in Toronto.
It did, but
And
we made it work, which was great.
we made it work, and I really genuinely, like, so honored. But I find everybody so busy, like trying to get people anywhere nowadays. I feel like it's pre-COVID craziness again.
Everybody's reverted back finally, which is
They
nice. And
have.
yeah, so but yet here we are. We found time, and yeah, happy to dive in and share the insights and the perspectives that I have the privilege of having based on the position that I sit in the ecosystem.
Thank you. No, I, I thought about AI. Again, it came up with someone I was talking to about, building out some systems, and they said, you know what, we started building up this whole system, and we stopped halfway and went, you know what, we're bringing in AI, we're going to automate all this stuff, and I went, oh my God, I'm not going to even like, you're going too fast for me, and I don't know if it's. So for sure, my kids would tell me it's my age on some level. I think I'm reaching that point where I'm like, I'm not, not going to know the songs on the radio anymore and all that stuff, right? But I would also say that I'm actually against automation in the real estate world for my business and the way that I run my business, because I don't believe in an impersonal experience. So last time we talked, we were waiting for your Uber to pick you up, and we started talking about ChatGPT. And I feel like that is so old now. Like, I know how to use that, and you said, well, I just booked my last trip on ChatGPT, and I said,
Planned. I think I
plans,
said.
plans, plans.
Yeah.
I mean, you could almost book it through. And I thought, well, that's so fascinating. And I don't remember where I was going, but I was in the car with my husband, and I think that we found his next car while driving back. Because I was like, oh, this guy, Mike, that I know, told me we could use it this way. But now ChatGPT is like almost outdated.
Yeah, pervasive, well used. No, I think it's interesting because that was only what, a year and a half ago, something like that. Was that it? Something like that. So maybe for the benefit, just a bit of background. So um, in my position, we run Reach Canada, which is the accelerator program on behalf of Second Century Ventures, which is a venture capital arm on behalf of the National Association of Realtors. So what that really means is that the National Association of Realtors, so our American counterparty to Korea, has put some money into a fund to invest in technologies to advance the realtor proposition, value to consumers, however you want to articulate that. And they've been doing that since 2008. Our Canadian team has been at this since 2020. So we've been doing this for 6 years. And what it means is every year we go out and we look for the best technologies that empower the practitioners to be even more valuable to their consumers and their customers, prospective customers, and help them interact with folks like yourselves and different folks. What that means is my job is to understand the technology that's coming, the technology that's here, and how it plays into the actual workflows of everyday realtor, everyday home buyer, everyday home seller, and everybody that's associated and touches that aspect of it. So I think last time we talked about the mortgage aspect, the insurance aspect. it can get even as far out as, what are those digital things that you're putting in your home that are bringing that whole system together. So for example, Ecobee or Nest, and then going to the other side of like, the more foundational pieces of, digital signatures, right? So covering that whole gambit. So with that lens, it allows us to have to look at every aspect. And I would agree with you. Since our last conversation, everything and anything touches AI. And I think, maybe to put a finer point on it, we can get into it. But I'm going to throw it back on you. What AI are you using
I'm
today?
ready.
Okay, I know you knew this was coming, right? So like, to throw it back in you framed out here. What are you using for AI? What are you touching that you think is AI, and what are people talking about in your circles? And then we'll go from there.
So I'm really not using it. I mean, I probably am and don't even know, by the way. I
Okay.
mean,
Yes. Well, I think that's part of it. Okay.
right? Uh, I think that there are ways of that I have heard of automating yourself of being able to interact with your clients in the processes of the transaction, whether it's on the mortgage front or through even like closing costs with an online lawyer or you name it, right? I mean, there's tons of AI ways of using within Follow Up Boss, for example, the top CRM that realtors use. I use none of it.
Okay. Have you tried it? Can I ask that?
No, I have not. I've thought about it. I've thought about of creating different things within it, and I don't know if it's my A-type personality of wanting to be able to like control every single aspect of my client's experience because that is so important to me, or it's just because it just doesn't speak to me. Like there's nothing. When someone says, "Oh my God, I need to solve for this in my life, right? I need to solve for this in my business." I'm not asking the question and getting that as the answer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally fair. And I think that there's a key thing just to maybe separate from the stuff. There's automation and then there's AI.
See?
And a lot of the time you can
Humor.
conflate the two things.
Yes.
Well, but I think it's an important point to maybe go down. I think where we came from historically was what are all the, call it, repetitive tasks that an agent or a team or an associate or a broker has to do that we could potentially automate with technology, right? Like that's where we came from, call it 3-4 years ago, which was, okay, hey, I've got to do outreach to prospective buyer clients. Okay, so I go to an open house, I get this list of emails. I don't want to go and copy and paste the same email to send it 100 times. All right, so I could automate that. It's not AI, it's just automate that. So I, set it and forget it, and perhaps I put them on a drip campaign or put them on a mailer, etc. Now, even with that, there's pushback because to your point, it's, well, I want to immerse myself in the experience. I don't want to spam my clients. Well, you shouldn't spam your clients, right? Obviously, where there's legislation around that. But that in itself was a task that you were now taking off your plate that would ideally drive business, but still was a little bit removing. Didn't take away the value that you were creating. It was more of a lead generation, business development sort of thing. And the way that I think about it is, historically before technology, that would have been something you were hiring, whether it was an EA, an analyst, somebody to come in and support. So, okay, maybe you could do that. So let's park that for a second. Now you have AI, and AI can be really anything and everything because ultimately what is AI? It's a tool in which it allows you to generate content, whether it's video replicas of yourself, copy for that email. It is the ability to have your own, call it, coach, right? So these AIs out here have been trained on the corpus of data that is the human knowledge, right? The human written knowledge. And so you can go out and say, hey, I adhere to this business model. Please talk to me as if you are Richard Robbins, Tom Ferry, and Brian Buffini. And I want to go out and be the, call it, the agent that conquers these 3 postcodes or these 3 neighborhoods or these 3 agents. Be my virtual mentor and talk me through how I might do that and strategize. So now that's AI to strategize, right? And so you've got all these different use cases that go down it. And so I think coming back to the first conversation, like, is AI here to stay? Is AI boom or bust? Well, from what I've seen, just generally speaking, from a societal aspect, AI is not going anywhere. Right? We're using it in our day to days. We're using it as our therapist. We're using it as our health evangelist. We're using it as our lawyer. Recognizing OpenAI just said that now you can't use ChatGPT for those two things. Okay, well now I'm going to move to Grok or Anthropic or Perplexity or pick your favorite LLM model to go down that path. But what we have definitely seen over the last 12 months is that it's become default first with AI. And so historically, when people used to Google things, I don't know about you, but
I
are you
don't
Googling
know anymore.
anymore? Yeah.
No.
And that's
When
so,
you chat it now, which is crazy, right? Like, because why would you want to search for the answer when it'll just give it to you and then suggest, would you like, for sure. I mean, I would say I use ChatGPT for my business. I would say that would be the only thing for sure.
well, and I think so I think that's an important thing to just like put a pause on and come back to, because an approach that I always like to think about is crawl, walk, run, right? So what is crawl? Crawl to me is that people now are shifting their behavior from going directly to Google to going to their AI of choice, and the market leader being ChatGPT right now. So you've got that on your phone, you've got that on your desktop. That's call that like phase one. In addition, you do go to Google and you search. What happens? You get that nice little summary box at the top generated by Gemini. And so even there, you're also getting AI. And so is it only going to get better? The answer is most likely yes. Are the players out there investing significant amounts of capital into this space? And will this be the worst that AI will ever be? Most likely. And what we're continuing to see is enhancement on enhancement on enhancement. And so the interesting thing that I think for this audience is, okay, let's accept for the nature of this conversation, let's accept that that's now shifted, right? I'm no longer Googling for things. Okay. What does that mean for my business? Well, what does that mean for my website that I created, right? Am I still going to be getting the traffic that I wanted for that? And quite frankly, this isn't just for agents and brokers. This is also for the portals, right? And I think there was a lot of waves that were made a few weeks back where Zillow said, "Hey, we're going to embed ourselves into chat down on the U.S. side." Um, Interesting, right? That can warrant a whole different conversation. But if the consumer is going for their first entry point to get knowledge in a different place than they were historically, what are you doing as an agent to ensure that your name is popping up there versus on those top 10 blue links? And so I think if you can pull it back from that perspective, it's like, okay, well, let's think through all of the things that I've done historically and let's ground that in the actual behavioral change that's starting to occur at the consumer level. That to me is foundation piece one.
Is SEO dead? I mean, like I think, and again, like from a standpoint of tech or again, I never did SEO. I never, so it's so interesting to me in the sense of, people who were doing high level or that type of thing from a real estate perspective. And I just looking through the lens as a realtor, as an agent, people who are listening, who are buyers and sellers and thinking, is AI going to replace the experience I had with an agent, right? Again, like not to get off on a tangent, but I'd love to hear what you think that will end up looking like.
Well, and I think so. So on that, to your question, is SEO dead? No, but it's shifted what people are calling it. So the term that people are throwing around is GEO, right? Generative engine optimization. So are you optimized to be found on
Right.
chat? Are you optimized to be found on Grok, right? Like what are you doing to be found there? And that's brand new, right? Like we're talking 12 months into this, right?
Yeah, no, totally.
So it's scary because if you've built up a really consistent data set or I would say traffic feed from the original behemoth that was Google, what's happening to that traffic? Have you seen a big step down? And if you have, what are you doing to get yourself into the generative place? And here's the interesting part is that, all the consultants and all the industry built around SEO optimization, they're trying to figure it out just alongside you, right? And there's a lot of folks that know a lot of great things. So I'm not suggesting that there isn't experts to go down that path, but that right there. Okay. So let's just take there's a lot of uncertainty on the digital realm, right? Let's just park that. So then the question is, okay, let's go back to automation. I was able to automate stuff before, but it felt clunky, right? I could send these texts, I could send these things. can AI really go in and help that? And so what I would say is the walk side is now agents are looking at their automation stack or what they were doing historically and saying, where can I have AI come in to add personal voice? Where can I add AI in here to add more context? Where can I use AI to take away, maybe if I only had an EA half the time, if I can take even more of that off of their desk. So for example, if you're generating brochures, you're generating flyers and mailouts, are there things that I can use AI to further reduce that burden as part of my workload? And so you're seeing folks that are, okay, like let's digital acquisition, lead generation, digital presence aside. Now on the automation side, what are the tools out there? And so there's a number of folks that are bringing tools to the market there where it's, hey, listen, you're already doing outreach, email outreach or drip campaigns or monthly flyers. Let us bring in our AI that makes it sound more like Rachel, right? That really canvases the landscape to pull together some incredible content, but does it in a way in which it's going to actually be read or received well by that homeowner instead of just being that bulk template. So put another way is like, hey, I want to send a monthly flyer. Can you tailor it for these 10 verticals, right? One being potential investor clients. And let's use Toronto as a great example. So investors that want to get into the market. Well, you could tailor that using AI or have it draft that much different than the ones that, hey, investor clients that have products that are looking to sell, right? You can tailor that really quickly, which if you were to do it would be an incredibly onerous process, but you can bring AI into the table to streamline that. And now you can speak more specifically to those each specific markets, which is how you would interact with your customer regardless. And so what it allows you to do is really compound your leverage in those conversations with those prospective clients, past clients, however you want to see it, to get to the point where, as we have agreed and will continue to agree, is getting face to face, knee to knee, having that coffee and talking about their needs. Because that's really the whole objective of all this, is to position you into that meeting so you can have the conversation of how you could be helpful to them.
I have so many tabs open in my head right now. I'm like, okay, buckle up. So, I mean, again, I think that you're right. Like the kind of crawl, walk, run in that, like, and I'm not your average agent, let's say, that's using it. I think there's younger, like cooler, hipper, like all these guys that are getting into the AI space and talking about all the cool stuff. And, when creating these avatars and doing these videos, you can't even tell. Like I could do one and I know people wouldn't actually be able to tell it's me. That's where I'm going. Like right now, I'm crawling and going, I want to think about a really cool high-end branded holiday gift. Like I want ideas, I want, and it'll give me all these different ideas and that type of thing. Or, I want some content to put, like, who should I follow, all that stuff. So that's like, I don't even know if that's crawling, like maybe just like, belly time for
Yeah,
a
I
bit.
would say, yeah, that's it's crawling, right? Because you're using it to brainstorm, you're using it to strategize. I think, right, like it's that ideation phase, right? You're not at execution, you're at ideation. So to me, that's crawl.
The worst thing that I think came out of ChatGPT was agents using it to write listing descriptions. I kiboshed it for my team. I said, absolutely not. Do not touch it. I don't want to. I don't want to see it. Because I think that there's that balance of like, how does AI bring value to the consumer, and then how does it create laziness? But then I look at it and I go, let's say I put out my monthly newsletter, old school, but I try to create content that's a little bit interesting, and I do my own video. I don't do a write up. I do a video. I speak to my clients, and my concern is going into AI. Does that take away from my voice, my opinion on the market? Does it then create, because the average buyer can get on ChatGPT and go, tell me what's going on. What should I buy? What's going on in the market? I have $1.4 million. I want to buy a 3-bedroom house in Toronto with good schools, whatever. Where should I look? Now, ChatGPT will tell them that, but then it's not an opinion. It's not an experience. As ChatGPT have the boots on the ground. And by the way, I'm not defending my job. I feel worse for the kids who were 25 getting into this job. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think to go back to it though, like, I am of the belief that the access to the data is not the core value proposition that a real estate practitioner brings to
No,
the
for
table.
sure.
It never has been, right? And
No,
I
I
think there
agree.
there was a move at one point where it was like, hey, this is part of it is we have all this proprietary data and we'll bring that to the table, which helps synthesize an opinion. Those days are long gone, right? People can get into that data through different numbers of resources. So that's one side. So then the second question is, okay, well, if it's not the data, what is it? Well, it's me, helping you walk through, understand the parameters. Okay, well, if I can chat GPT and get that, interesting. And yet here's what we're seeing is that most folks still want that guide to take them through the process. So what does that mean? Well, it can be different for every single client, right? The one that's been there and done that, sometimes they just want somebody to play good cop, bad cop and be the expert negotiator. If it's their first time, they
Or a
want the
marriage
full hand,
counselor.
right, or a marriage counselor, or they want the hand holding, right, from start to finish. Whatever it is, the beautiful part of being human is that we are end to end. We can come in and we can deliver that end to end experience. Whereas the technology today is point to point, right? It's coming in for a very specific thing and solving that point to point. So to take that full circle, what does that mean for you? At the end of the day, these are all just tools. The landscape is shifting. How are they being used by you to get you more of those in-person conversations with those clients that need and want the valuable services that you can bring to the table such that you can do your job? And I think if you just boil it down to those most foundational elements, all the noise starts to dissipate quite quickly. Because then it's, well, should I do this really cool generative video where I can go and get myself 10,000 times in front of people? Maybe, but is that going to achieve the objective that you set out for yourself? Right. And so to your point in the newsletter, hey, should I use AI to go in and train my own voice on this? Maybe, because if it's going to deliver, the objective is honestly just to remind me that Rachel knows a bunch of stuff and I should ping her for coffee because when I'm thinking about real estate, I should ping her. If that's the objective, maybe it will scale and be worthwhile. And then to go back to your point around the property descriptions. Okay, I hear you loud and clear, but is there a medium way where, hey, you get your 80% and then you spend your time not building up the full description, but going in and highlighting the key elements that matter for that specific market, for that specific home itself, because you do know the home. Your job is to know that home and be able to market it. Because, I would also make the argument that the description is, yes, but one thing you bring to the table, but it's not a core element of the value proposition you bring to the table. So is there ways to streamline that? So all that to say, I think it comes back to these really core foundational elements of what is the value proposition you bring to the table for your specific client? Only you know that, right? Number two, how can you use technology to get yourself to that moment with a prospective client, past client, current client, more efficiently or more effectively, right? And number three, whatever you choose to implement, what is the objective of each? And what does it mean when you're doing it successfully? And as long as you have those founding elements in anything you do, it really allows you to simplify all different aspects of how you're viewing technology. And then you can go to market and say, hey, Mike, what tech solutions do this? Or, hey, I was doing some searching, or I was doing some AIing, right? And my AI of choice, and here are all the different things that I want to plug in, but I know now why I want to do it. And so again, like anything, right? Tactics are just tactics. It's the strategy and it's the objective and it's the goals that you're trying to achieve that need to always sit at the top for where you want to go with these things. And that hasn't changed.
I love that. And I love the reframing of the narrative in the sense that it's just another tool in your toolbox of achieving whatever you want to achieve. So I could unpack this all day about my business, but that's not what this podcast is about. To me, even though I have so many questions, is, as a real estate buyer or seller, how do you see this improving the experience then on the other side? So again, people listening going, maybe I don't trust AI. I don't want to see an avatar of my broker or whatever it is. But you know what? What are the positives that you think they're going to get out of the AI being utilized in the industry more?
Well, again, let's start at the crawl level. So what do you do when you get any sort of sophisticated document that you're not normally used to seeing? What do most consumers do
I
with
throw it.
anything?
Well,
Throw it in there and get it to interpret. Hey, I got a lab result from the doctor. What does my blood work mean?
oh God.
Right? Hey, I got this contract of signing my phone bill. Tell me the three ways that I can't get out of this contract, whatever it is, right? And so I think it's just table stakes to expect your prospective sellers, your buyers, your prospective buyers are going to do the exact same thing. Whether it's in the terms of service, whether it's in your agreements or not, they are going to take whatever piece of collateral that you send across, and literally just get a second opinion.
I hope
That
so.
is, that will be the first thing most folks are already doing, which means number one, you need to know and be very, very well suited to do the job. So take the courses that you need to take, right? Be the professional that you aspire to be and are, right? But also be prepared. And here's the other challenge: is it's like having that really smart family member that maybe missed an element or two that you might have pushback around because it's also not perfect. And we see this a lot. Where founders on our side, on the investment side, will be like, hey, we're looking at some deal documents, and quite frankly, this is an issue, this is an issue, and this is an issue. And we're like, well, interesting. Tell us why you think that. And a lot of time, like, well, I whacked it into AI, and this is what AI told us. And we're like, well, these are the 13 reasons why AI doesn't have context, why they missed it, and why that actually is inaccurate advice. Because again, it's not perfect. And so the key thing to start out is you're going to have to do likely more objection handling, or be prepared for objection handling is the wrong word. Be prepared for those questions, which I think is great because it's informing the buyers, it's informing the sellers, and it's further validating you as the professional, right? It's further allowing you to articulate your knowledge around the market, around the transaction, around the home, around the documents, whatever it might be. But those conversations, your consumers are going to be much more prepared, much more equipped to come to those conversations, which I think is a really, really great thing. So that to me would be the first thing that shifts on that side. The second component that shifts on that side is folks are going to be looking for places where they're like, oh, did you not put in the effort? Did you not do the work? And there's countless, if you just go back to our friend Google, but Google, like, where people get sloppy in using AI to generate reports. I can't recall, but it was one of the big four accounting firms did a massive project for, I believe it was the government of Australia. It turns out they just literally GPT'd the entire thing, full of errors, submitted it across, and it came back being like, you actually did none of the work, right?
I'm shocked the government
So,
actually caught that.
right, right. And I think the interesting part of that is it's not necessarily that our consumers are looking for the holes in the cheese, but because it is, and you spoke to this earlier, because it is a pathway to efficiency, aka laziness, if used in the wrong way, folks are aware of that. And so, to me, it's a very important thing to be mindful of. Like, this isn't an opportunity to not do the work. So, you mentioned to the younger folks joining the industry, it's like, yes, this is a really powerful super weapon that you have, but at the same time, it doesn't give you permission to not do the work. And going back to just taking this full circle on this is that the real estate business is built on relationships, and relationships are built on trust. And trust is incredibly hard to earn, incredibly easy to take away. And if you keep that as a foundational thinking in the back of your mind, that will, I believe, give you a good understanding of how it's going to benefit. And then from there, there's a number of different tools, and of course, people can still use them. But I think with everything, we're still seeing that reluctancy to fully, I guess, agree, or the words escaping me, but basically believe, right? I'm not going to fully believe it yet, but I'm going to use it. And of course, everybody's in different elements of their usage of different tools. But all that to say is it's forcing us as the professionals, irrespective of the profession, to be able to come to the table and really highlight what it is that you are bringing to the table.
I almost want to go back to the very first point, which is I truly believe that what it will give the consumer is even more information. And I think that there's this really bad connotation about real estate in general. And I was just having this conversation the other day about why I started this podcast, because I believe that real estate has this like smoke and mirrors, and people don't really know what's going on. And I mean, one of the biggest issues I have even to this day is like the whole brokerage remarks that like in COVID no one could see that there was an offer night, or there are still elements of it, right? So I was like, I think we just need to talk about all of these things that are going on and educate just the average person about what it is. And one of the things that I've always believed is the more information the consumer, and this is for any industry, of course, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
But I think
exactly.
what's the old saying? It's like is that information is like the oxygen to breathed into like a good decision. You can't make good decisions unless you have the information to do so. And as good as I am at my job, no one should follow me blindly into the fire. I mean, I'm here to manage and to guide and to explain, and then at the end of the day, everyone has to make the best decision. I mean, you know what the funny thing is? I'm sure there's agents that would love to hear this and be like, oh, that's so nice. But it's actually the one thing I never want to hear when I'm like, so what do you want to do? And they're like, you tell me, we trust you. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. I'm like, thank you. That means the world. And I will always give you my best hearted advice, honest advice, but you need to make your own decisions based on what you know. So if AI is going to, and what I hope is that AI allows the consumer to find the right information for them and not have it become this like buy real estate from this avatar. Like that's where that's like the river that divides for me right now, right? Is all these people are like, let me create this avatar and I'm going to do this and I'm going to say, hey, it's Rachel Levy checking in. Yes, that is again that other side of that automation, but I hope that the tool is used so that people can feel more part of the process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think there's always going to be different folks that are looking for a different experience, and perhaps there is, right? Like if we're looking at it just technologically, right? There is no technological reason why you couldn't stand up a digital avatar of yourself to put a buy button on it and to automate 99% of what needs to be done in that, right?
Can I just stop for a second? I did it on Riverside. And I'll share it with you. I'm not putting this online. I sent it to my children and they were like, why do you look like a man with red hair?
So there's room for improvement. All right.
I was crying. It was so bad. It was so bad. Anyway, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna dabble with this. This is a really cool platform. Let me see. Oh, let me create some content. And I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna just delete that ever happening. I could not stop laughing. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's good. I like just taking it out back to the comment, like from a tech perspective, you can do all these things, right? Like they exist, right? But at the end of the day, this is a relationship business, and what does it look like 50 years from now? I have no idea. But 5 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from
I don't
now,
know.
listen,
5 years, I don't even.
folks are still ingrained in having these experiences in person and going through it. And I'll even the most tech forward systems right now, let's say even buying a car, right? The most tech forward North American based manufacturer, Tesla. You can buy a car on your phone. You do not have to go into a store. They still have physical stores. They still have people. You still talk to the people. You do maintenance. You still book your maintenance on the phone. And let me tell you, most people still want to talk to the maintenance shop because it's still not there. That is just a car. So you
Is the
take it
maintenance
further.
guy still going to be here in 5 years, though? Like, that's the question.
So I think this is one of the things about being entrepreneurial and being in real estate is that the beauty of it is that you have the ability to adapt as you see fit. And so what are the rules on the field today? Well, the rules on the field today are as we've discussed, right? Folks are utilizing technology. They're going to have some more questions. There's a number of different tools out there that you can use to enhance your business, outcompete your competitors if you choose to, right? Lower your cost infrastructure if you're running a team or a brokerage. Those are all great things, right? And that competitive edge continues to drive the industry forward. Those are all fantastic different things. Does it mean that you wake up tomorrow and the industry doesn't exist? No, it does not
No.
mean that. Do you need to worry about that existential threat of it happening tomorrow? I would say no. Personally, I wouldn't. Does it mean that 10 years from now, we're doing things much, much differently than we are today? Most likely. But the beautiful thing about being human and being an entrepreneur more specifically is that we're predisposed to handle that uncertainty. And it's one of
That's
the most
exciting.
compelling value propositions that entrepreneurs bring to the table is their ability to withstand uncertainty and to adapt. And so, from that perspective, it is what are you doing to keep apprised? Ensure that you've got your finger on the pulse, watching, shows like yours, going to the different conferences, talking to different people, and ensuring that you're not caught flat-footed. Because I will go to the other side, is that it's not going away. It is not going away. It's only going to further proliferate. There's a lot of futurists out there that you can follow and read up on and see where things are going. Does that really matter at this point? Perhaps, perhaps not. It's up to you and how you want to think about your business. There's some really great coaches on the real estate side that are really leaning into AI from an automation perspective on how to lever this. So I'm not sure if you follow her, but Marky Lemons Ryle, she's out of the US. She is, I would say, one of the most plugged in when it comes to utilizing specific technology to augment, automate, use AI, digitize, all those different things. Really great person, knows this stuff through and through. Where she's gone to that full extreme of like, let's digitize and let's use all the tech tools. Whereas I think I sit in more of a, yeah, where I think I sit at a more of a, call it a generalist view, where it's, most folks are at different parts in the journey, right? And
No, but
so
you can take a little
recognizing
bit of
that.
everything, right? Like you can take a little bit of what you're saying, what she's saying, but it would be great. I think I'll put her in the show notes. I'll take her name after.
Absolutely. No, she's great. And there's a number of folks out there that are really leaning into, how to become the AI agent. And, I think that's going to be really interesting, right? Well, and this is just it, right? There is folks that are like, hey, I want to go after that segment of the market that doesn't want to talk to people. Great. Like fill your boots, go for it. There's a lot of technologies, but there's a lot of agents that are like, hey, listen, I actually got in this business because I love helping people. And I love helping people by being able to get to know them, understand their needs, understands their wishes, their wants, their dreams. Well, to do that, I need to go and find those people. And I can use technology to go and help find those people, right? There's a number of different cool things. But at the same time, I still want to get to know people. I still want to service them as their client. I want to be their fiduciary, not saying the others don't, but I really want to be that, because that's what gives me the energy to get up. Yeah, closing the deal is great. The paycheck's fine, but it's actually helping my clients. So when they walk in that door and they're like, wow, give Rachel a big hug and they're like, thank you, right? We've got our dream home. That is how you want to align yourself. So, taking it back to the tech stack, there are so many different ways in which you can do this. And AI is only going to get more advanced, more easy to use. And so, start using it today, get in there and just make
You
it
heard
align
it
with your
here
values and
first.
your business. Yeah. Well,
Rachel's gonna
last
start.
time, I think I said that last time, actually.
Yeah, probably. Um, okay, so last question in the sense of reach, and I have been with you guys for a few years and, kind of watching the evolution of it. Would you say, let's even just go this year, like what would you say you notice as a change in what you were presented from people that you chose? Because you had three finalists that you chose and you stood behind. What would you say changed, like in the sense of AI, like compared to even 5 years ago?
So I think what's interesting is folks are starting to get away from the buzzwords and starting to get to the applicability of what those things actually mean. And I'll give you an example around this. So one of the companies that we're working with this year is called Credivera, and they do digital workforce identity. Now, the first thing that people say is like, is this on blockchain? Is it on chain? Without getting into the technical specs, that is not the core value proposition. Now they understand blockchain and they're incredibly well versed in it. And as a matter of fact, the founder sat on a number of different entities that really pushed forward and understood the blockchain elements of it. But because they understand it so well, they understand its pitfalls. However, there are different aspects that really help empower why this technology can work. So they're actually building their technology in a slightly nuanced fashion, explicitly not saying we are on chain, but utilizing all those learnings and some of those technological elements to ensure that those great features are being embedded in the product. And so that's a really interesting one, right? On the other side, it's okay, well, there's these really, nuanced elements of how do I underwrite deals for, say, call it multifamily investors, call it one of the companies that we're working with, Cedar. Well, a lot of time that's a really expensive task when you have to hire these really expensive analysts. Okay, so it's hard to do at scale. Well, what if we can use technology and these algorithms existed before, but with AI, it's an easier, more cost-effective way to underwrite these deals to get them to 90, 95%. So the analyst doesn't have to look at 100 deals. They can look at, the top 5 deals, and they can go through and comb those. So those business models are starting to emerge where now the economics make sense, because people would always say, hey, it makes sense to do this, but the economics didn't underpin it because you had to hire so many people. So what we're starting to see is a number of these business models that people for a long time have been saying should exist. And we're curious, like, why don't they? Now they're starting to be able to exist because the technology underneath it is allowing those cost structures to be lower so that they can actually go and deliver on that. And so that's another really interesting one. And then the last part of this is there's starting to be a much more open conversation around data. Then that's a really, really
It's a big
big
shift.
shift.
Yeah.
It is a big shift. And it has been a long journey to get here. And it's less about, data being the value proposition. It's more of the acknowledgement that for these tools, people do need data, and accessing the data in different formats from different sources and different vendors can be incredibly complex and onerous. So how can we help start to work with our members specifically to help make that data accessible? Well, there's a number of different technology solutions that can do that. And it's not saying that members are getting data that they wouldn't otherwise get. It's getting it in that useful, friendly, workable format so that you, as, let's say, an agent, if you want to stand something up and do something, you now can look to the industry and say, hey, there's a couple of solutions that make this not going to be a $200,000 project because I can implement this solution, which makes it easier to work with. Put another way, I can use building blocks that look obvious as opposed to non-obvious. And if I build my whatever website, my app for customers, whatever it might be, I don't think I know it's not gonna break because I've got this intermediate layer sitting there. And so that's another thing. And then rounding it out is not just affordability, but price inflation everywhere. And so how can we utilize different payment methods? How can we use the systems and the technologies that we're already paying our bills with and the different platforms that we have there? How can we bring it together, look for cost savings, and really try to make the most of every dollar, given the continued rise in prices out there, because that's not going away and it's becoming more and more and more of a pressure. And technology can play a key. And so putting all those things, that I would say those shoes are starting to hit the ground, and is it running? I don't know. It's starting to walk a little bit, which is cool. But it's, again, going back to, I think maybe 5-6 years ago, here's all these great technologies. Cool. What do we do with it? Now it's, okay, great. We know what these technologies do. Here's some really cool use cases. Yes, they can do so much more, but here's some really cool use cases. People are really getting, some good value out of this.
Yes.
Maybe I should lean in here too.
Yeah. No, I would, I think it's fascinating to watch the technology be put into actual application versus, like, here's a really cool idea, math's not mathing. And so, it's allowing them to come up with it. I would also say I was excited to see, like, a neobank that I'm speaking to tomorrow, seeing more innovation around, like, renters. I think they are forgotten. I think that, as you said, affordability and being able to bring this kind of technology to the forefront and allow them to, benefit from something, as not everyone's homeowners. That's it. And that's okay. I mean, you look at New York, being a renter is totally normalized, right? So very exciting for sure. And the data part, really interesting because Canadians are very different than the US. We have a lot of privacy laws that are very different. There are many companies that have gone after Treb for data and have not won. I'm saying it out loud. Hopefully someone doesn't come after me for it. But the reality is that that data should be in the hands of the consumer. There's nothing to hide. Like, going back to that idea of, like, my value proposition is not to tell you how much that house was worth next door, right? My value proposition is very different, and that data should be in the hands and would be incredible in the consumer. So, not to go on a tangent, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, and I think, like, just to put a fine point on it, right? Like, at the end of the day, it is the member's data, and there's always gonna be that tie back to the member, but the members want to deliver the data and the value back to the consumer. So as long as that line is very clear, having the technology make it easy, I think is the interesting
Fair,
part about that,
fair.
right? Because
Yes.
it's one thing to say, you can do it. It's quite another to say, well, here's some technology that makes it super easy, and you can build some really cool, awesome stuff, which is really neat. The other thing I will say is, no, 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 absolutely, it's fine. And then like love it or hate it, but there's been an incredible push out of the U.S. administration on all things technology, whether it's AI, crypto, the awareness that things are shifting, the competition the competition, quote unquote. And put that aside, what it's forcing is the conversation in Canada to now follow suit. And so, here we are recording a couple days post the 2025 budget. And in there was an allocation to explore the feasibility of a stablecoin backed by Canadian fiat. That is something that was not even a conversation, but 6 months ago publicly. And so as you see these different forums push forward these different initiatives, it's going to be really one to watch from a Canadian perspective. How does that translate? Because let's assume here that all of a sudden we have not a USDC stablecoin, but we have a CAD stablecoin, and folks want to use this crypto to go out and buy real estate. What does that look like, right? And so it's coming, but what does that look like for you as an agent? What does that look like for you as a broker? How are you going to be prepared for that? And what do you need to do to ensure that you've got your finger on the pulse so that you can capture those early adopters and you can use that as part of your value proposition to go and differentiate your business model, right? Because if it is coming, right, and if they do move forward with this, that's government of Canada, right? And so you as a practitioner need to be aware and prepared and how that might impact your business. So all that aside, things are shifting. We've got to be nimble out there. We don't really know what's going to happen 5 days from now, let alone
Oh my
5 years
goodness,
from
right?
now, right? And so with that, I think the best advice here is always have that objective, always know where your values are and if they're aligned with what you're doing, and then where it makes sense, look to layer in the technology to augment and make yourself as digitally super powered as possible.
And not use my avatar. Thank you. That was amazing. I really appreciate it. And there you go. AI is not going anywhere. I just hope that it is used for the best part of humanity. I'll just leave it at that. And who knows, by the time crypto and all that comes, I'll probably be retired somewhere, so I won't have to worry about it.
It might come faster than we think. Who
I
knows?
know. Well, I don't know. I'm hoping the government doesn't usually move too fast, but I agree with you. I think I was talking about this with someone the other day. Like the slow pace is going to speed up very, very fast, very, very soon. I agree. And so thank you so much for the honest conversation, the insight from your incredible wealth of knowledge, and thank you. I'm excited to see what's coming up next. It's never a dull moment in real estate.
It's
That's
never
for sure.
boring. Yeah,
Never
yeah. It gives
boring.
you a reason to get out of bed and put the
Oh,
shoes
it
on every
sure
day, doesn't it?
does. Just
Uh,
yeah, no, it sure does. But thank you, and congratulations on air on
Thank you.
your new little girl. And we do hope that you get some sleep. And I look forward to my meeting with Neobank.
Awesome. Well, great seeing you as always, Rachel. This was a lot of
Yeah,
fun. So
you too.
hopefully the conversation, resonates with some folks. And yeah, happy to jump back on, 6 months from now and eat all my words that I said where everything changed and I was wrong on everything. So
No, I feel like you should hold my hand to the fire and go, okay, Rachel, I'm going to come back in 6 months. You're going to tell me what you've implemented in your business. Anyway, thank you. Have a wonderful day.